How you doing, Eric? Can you hear us all right?
I can hear you guys. For some reason, the camera's not working.
No worries, man. Welcome to the All Elite Zone. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for. We had a cancellation today, so thank you for filling this in. It really means a lot to someone. We could get. Yeah, for AEZ overtime. As Lane said, thank you for coming on.
I feel like I'm doing an old school call in.
Yeah, we can all go around and Chris, if you want to start us off.
Well, if it isn't Eric Redbeard, first off, my name is Chris Downs. I'm a fan of professional wrestling. And my question to you is, Mr. Eric Rowan or Redbeard, during the time in the WWE, what's the deal with that the spider thing? Is it real? Is it robotic or what?
It's a storyline that was never told, so everybody just thinks it was a spider. How's that? No, it was 100. It was 100 different things, and then I was showed this mechanical spider, and then Vince wanted it shown as a spider, but then the next week it was killed immediately, and that was the last you saw of it and me on that program.
Ooh.
Wow.
So it was a mechanic. I knew it.
Oh, it looked bad. It looked very bad.
I agree.
Oh man. Eric, do you have a great Vince McMahon impersonation? Since we're talking about his ideas here.
I mean, everybody's got their own opinions of the man. He's a larger than life character. But as far as impersonations, I mean, it's just he's loud. He's abrasive. He's scary. And I've seen him be that way with other people. Luckily, I've rarely ever had the wrath of Vince, but it's just loud and yes, perfect, great.
That's great.
That's good shit, Eric. That's good shit.
That's
so
right.
Eric, big fan. Love all your work in the ring. So one of the questions we ask here is basically how you got started in professional wrestling. So what's the background in your story of how you got started in professional wrestling?
I mean, we all watch as kids or think we do. We're all probably just playing around. I remember my parents had it at our cousins and uncles, on closed circuit. But us kids didn't care. We just were running around playing. And fast forward about 99, 2000, right when I graduated high school, right before, I started watching some more, getting back into it kind of. And I remember watching, I don't know why it stuck with me. There was a No Mercy pay-per-view, and it was Kane and Tess.
Yes.
And I thought, damn, those guys are like my size. I was 6'6", 6'7" at that age. And I was like, damn. They're athletic. They can move. It's like that inspired me. Like maybe one day, I play some football, and I ended up getting sick. But I would watch pay-per-views with my buddies in college, and got really into it after I got sick my sophomore year. Got like a respiratory virus, and they didn't diagnose it for like 6 months. So I went through a whole problem with weight gain and being on oxygen. And so it just wasn't fun. So I was like, well, what am I going to do next? My grades are plummeting because I missed all the school because I was sick. So I was like, all right. I saw a wrestling show that was local, so I went with a buddy. My first ever wrestling show I've ever went to. And on the card was a local guy from Minnesota named Mitch Paradise, and he was facing the current WWF Cruiserweight Champion, Jerry Lynn. And I watched that match, and I fell in love with independent wrestling, which I didn't even know about. I didn't know that was the gateway to get in. So I decided to tell my parents that I'm quitting college. I'm going to work at a gentleman's club to survive, and I'm going to train to be a professional wrestler.
Very nice.
So, yeah. And then that was a long journey. But, things worked out. And about 8 years later, I made it. So
There you
it all
go.
worked.
That's
Yeah.
sorry, Mr. Jacob, sorry.
Oh, so you say you worked at a gentleman's club. I take it you're a bouncer. Do you have any stories about those times?
I got one that always sticks out to me just because I mean, there's always the funny stories, but then there's the serious stories. So this is probably one of the more serious. We were leaving shift one day. I noticed that the parking lot, light was dark for some reason. We'd already got escorted the girls out of the building, so it was just me, another one of the bouncers, and the manager, Season. And as we were leaving, I see Greg, his name, we called him G. He was the bouncer, big dude. He just decided to start sprinting and running away. So I start sprinting and running away, and I would turn around, and the guy's got a shotgun,
Oh man.
and he's holding us. So the from the guy, but it's not into her head, and the guy. Or cell phones were like a big deal, and everybody had them in their pockets. So it's like 4 a.m. It's dark. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and yeah, we went back, and I specifically remember I was starting to train to be a wrestler. So I think I tried to mess with the guy, and I bumped into an air conditioner with my knee and hopped towards him, and he he cocked the gun back and said, "Don't fuck with me." Sorry for the language. And I didn't screw with him. I went to the back of the building with the other two, and he started zip tying me with little Ziplocs, and had the gun pressed to my lat. And when that was going on, G, who was also laying down, decided to rush him. And when he rushed him, the guy got off of me. But as soon as G jumped over me, he got shot point blank in the chest with a sawed-off shotgun, double barrel.
Oh my god!
So my first reaction was to pick him up over my shoulder, because he dropped like he was nothing. The guy's like 265, just a muscular dude, and he just collapsed. And I remember picking him up. Season was already sprinting to her car. This was on a 70-mile-an-hour highway as well. So I picked him up, looked this guy in the eyes, didn't know if that shotgun had a second shot ready to go because it was double barrel. But I just turned around and ran up to the highway, flagged down the first truck I saw. The guy looked petrified, didn't want to help. But Season came the wrong way down the highway because she had her keys still on her, and we rushed to the hospital. I was holding his wound all the way there, giving him prayers, and he made it. They never did find the guy though, and I blame a lot of that on the stigma of gentlemen's clubs, and the guy that was shot was black. And I think the town of St. Cloud at the time, St. Cloud, Minnesota, I'll say that out loud, I think that they had some racist cops, and that's all I'm going to say.
I believe it.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy! Wow.
Wow. Jeez. That's a scary experience. Oh, that's scary.
Well, I guess I'll go next. Of course, you teamed with Brody Lee, Luke Harper a lot in your career, at least in WWE. What was one of your favorite matches that, a match that stood out to you when you and Harper teamed up together?
Our matches with anything with New Day, really clicking together with the Bludgeon Brothers, and match that we had together as a team when he came back for that short bit, when it was Hell in a Cell versus Roman and Bryan. I think that was the most fun I ever had in the ring with him.
Wow.
It was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Speaking of, sorry.
I was going to say, it still doesn't seem real that Brody Lee isn't here. This is a dream match of mine, but you and Brody Lee in AEW versus Who was I supposed to talk about? Oh, John Moxley and like Eddie Kingston. That was one of my dream matches that I wish that would have happened.
Well, I know whenever I wrestle, he's always, there either laughing at me screwing up or laughing at me doing a good job.
So, speaking of your time with the Wyatt family, what was the hardest part of your whole gimmick and character? What was the hardest part, like trying to figure out how to, develop and especially improve it for like the main roster after coming up from NXT?
The hardest part for me was getting over basically they like to screw with your mind at NXT at that time. So like they wanted to make you to feel like everything you did was wrong. And it took me a few years on the main roster to say, hey, why did I get rid of I got rid of some bad habits, but like there was just like move sets, different things I did on the indies that like I didn't start doing until later, but like that's only because my mind was so screwed up from NXT and just second guessing everything I did. And it wasn't until I was working the main roster guys at the time. And you got to remember, there, Kane, Henry, Big Show, Undertaker, like they're all these big guys that have been around for years. You had Punk, regularly on the roster. Mysterio was there, so we got to work with a lot of like very talented guys that Jericho, like everyone who had been around and done it. So we had a lot of good advice at that point in our years, and I think the system before it became what it is now, like it really screwed with people's heads.
It really sounds like a crazy version of sports entertainment boot camp. Wow, like I didn't realize it was that into breaking down, people as a wrestler. I know that they would help polish independent wrestlers just from what us fans see, but wow, I didn't realize they really broke you down like that. That's crazy.
I remember when they had John Brody, they were making him wear like trunks. It was the weirdest thing. So at the time I was doing a Viking gimmick and I had an extra pair of like black trunks and they made us tag wearing black trunks. And it was it's just because that's what big guys are supposed to do. They're supposed to show their whole bodies. And like, no, it just felt uncomfortable and not us. Not him, right. Especially. And like even with him, it's like they wanted to slow down his moveset and not have him do like half the stuff he could do and just make it as generic as possible.
Because I know there's that famous story of him with Brody, having to get that Southern accent, even though he was a very well-spoken, someone from Manchester. Was Manchester, New York, where he's from? Am I correctly?
Yeah, very well-spoken, very articulate, and that story always cracks me up because I always remember going up to him and be like, what the heck you mean you can't talk with the Southern accent? I mean, I was like, just try to sound as hillbilly as you can. You'll be fine. But yeah, to me, that story is true, and it's just ridiculous.
I agree.
So, obviously, a few of us are big fans of Busted Open Radio. One of our favorites on there is obviously Bully Ray. He talks about locker room camaraderie and just the different feels in locker rooms. So going from WWE and then to AEW locker room, what was the feeling for you there? Like, was there a different sense of feeling in WWE when coming over to AEW?
So it's funny because like every time I've been over at AEW, it's like the guys I congregate to are the guys you already know. The guys that I've shared locker rooms with, or the guys that I've done some indie shows with, and like I know these guys. Wrestling maybe you feel like a big world, but it's pretty small, and everyone's kind of just one big family. So like if guys are going through crap together in a crappy setting, or if the morale is bad, they still cling to each other to make everything better. So even like the worst morale I've ever had in WWE. The one thing I look forward to was hanging out with the boys. So I don't think there's much of a difference there. I think just the morale in the locker room, and I'm sure that happens in AEW. I'm sure guys get upset.
Yeah.
They're not getting pushed the way they want to. Their character's not being able to do what it wants to. But at the end of the day, you don't write the storylines. Like, do you have more control over your promos per se on one show or the other? Maybe it depends who you are. It's all case to case. I don't like to make assumptions on what people can do. And, if I see something that's bad, I like to think it's something that's, maybe like, oh man, like, I wonder what it was like before that, or maybe he did better with it, or maybe he did worse with it. Like, I don't know. Nobody knows. That's the whole fun of wrestling. That's the whole fun of watching it. I can sit and watch a match. Like tonight, I think, before I had to go run some errands, but I watched just the opening match with MJF and Adam Cole because I was curious. And it got me hooked because it was that old school style of wrestling that I love. Easy story. They didn't do anything too quick and flashy. They sold all the moves. It looked like a fight. It looked like a championship fight, and like that's how you draw in viewers.
That's true. Let me ask you this: was there anybody that pulled you aside as far as like in the WWE and kind of I guess took you under the wing as I guess in the way of saying?
I mean, like I said, I was lucky. I got to tag with a very knowledgeable guy and learn from a guy over, and learn to be more comfortable with what I do. And my whole goal was to be different and do different things than anybody else.
So you talk about watching that the MJF and the Adam Cole match, and it's old school wrestling. You were actually I did some research on you, Mr. Erick. You were trained by the trainer of champions, Eddie Sharkey. What was training under him like? A former AWA star himself. What's the training? Was that kind of the feel you got from that match and that kind of training that you got once you started in it?
Man, it's just fundamentals. It's letting the fans know who the good guy and who the bad guy is right away. And I'm not just talking about the Adam Cole baby. They're going to cheer him because he's, Adam Cole. It's like what he did in the match. And if a heel, that's blatant heel, MJF goes outside the ring, whatever. Whether it's a plant, which I hope it is, or just some poor kid that he punches in the face and flips off their hat and glasses, which I don't advise to any workers. But I'm saying, like, who the good guy and bad guy is. And like when he brings in the title and tries the Guerrero spot where he falls down and the ref falls over, and then it's like, oh, the babyface has the belt. Is he going to do the noble thing? No, he's Adam Cole. He's going to take advantage, but he's still the babyface of the match because he's taking advantage. And then the crowd bites on the finish, but the dude kicks out. So like that's the kind of old school story that gets people still involved today. And that's like, people talk about spamming moves, doing like 100 moves. It's like if you do 100 moves and the guy kicks out, like your moves they suck.
That's the way to put it bluntly.
Honestly,
I agree 100%.
Michael, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So this is going to be long-winded. 2014, I went to my first. Oh, there's my cat. 2014, I went to my first live event in Greenville, North Carolina, and I believe you faced the Big Show at that event. I actually pulled it on my Facebook before the show just to make sure. I remember in that time period, I think they split up the Wyatt family, and I'm just curious, why did they do that, and how did you feel about it?
I don't know why they did a lot of things they did, but you always take everything you can as an opportunity to do something. Yeah. I hated my first babyface run. I hated it because I would get to television. I'm 6'8", 300 plus pounds. I'm a babyface trying to be established, but yet you have me lose every match that's on Raw or SmackDown. It was funny because I'd go into TV, and if I was on a Superstars or a main event, I would know I was winning without asking. If I was on a Raw or, SmackDown with a match, I know I was losing. That's how predictable it got, and that's just me coming to work. Like, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but there was no story to say, hey, this guy's losing. Because I remember, like, I had that match, and people make fun of it all they want, the stairs match, but like, it's a stupid concept, but like, here's this babyface being established, and it's just to get Big Show over so that he looks like a threat for Roman. There's all these different layers that go in to whatever. And I remember specifically I hated doing house shows because I was the only babyface that would be, losing every match. And that was just to keep show strong so we could look good for Roman. I remember my debut at Madison Square Garden, and, was a match with Big Show that had to go like 4 minutes long. I wasn't allowed to have any sort of comeback. Because Arn Anderson was the producer, and he's like, I'm sorry, big man, but it's like they wanted him to come out later on for the main event, and we were like semi-main, and that's just the way stuff happened. And I'm glad eventually I got to have another chance. It's like a singles heel, which I thought I did a lot better at until I was given that cage. But like, it's just having opportunities and making the best you can of whatever opportunity you have. So if I could, people remember the stairs match for good or bad, people still remember it. So I'd try to make the best of whatever crappy opportunity I had, regardless of booking or being told I could speak or whatever. If I couldn't speak, I'd try to come up with different fun, gimmicky ways to get people interested in me.
What do you think about your time with Daniel Bryan? That's one of my favorite parts of your time in WWE. What do you think about that?
Agree. Yeah.
Good question.
No, I love that. I wish they would have showed more banter between us, but I think it paid off when I finally was able to tell him off and tell him why I was pissed off, because those are real feelings I was having. Like, the company kept me quiet for so long. I had so much I wanted to say, and that could have went on for a long time, and it could have, they talk about this business, which is why I'm a huge advocate in these house shows for guys coming up. Because and people, say, oh, the house shows, they get people hurt. No, they don't. Like, you just learn how to work so you can work 200 days a year and not get hurt. It's to me, I learned more on the house shows doing things than I ever did on the main roster. Ever did on television. It helped prepare you for that.
Do you think you have more? Well, for lack of a better word, more freedom doing house shows?
With at the time, that's all I can speak for is at the time with WWE. Yes, you had more freedom. Were there things that I didn't want you to do on house shows? Definitely. We couldn't change matches. I remember once when I was tagging with Daniel, we had some tag match, and I think Walter was at the time. He was up on some shows, and Daniel was a huge advocate on getting a match between me and him, just so he could watch from backstage and laugh with the boys, because they just want to see two big guys beat the living shit out of each other. But no, it's like, to me, it's like when I was there, the stuff I did in house shows, if I did it on TV, then you'd have Vince get upset, like, oh, he's pandering to the crowd too much, or oh, he's doing this too much, or oh,
Yeah.
so it's a lot of different things and advice, but at the end of the day, TV when I was there was for a party of one. You pleased him. If he was happy, you did your job.
So while you're traveling, doing house shows, especially going to different countries, was there any country cuisine or food or dish that you liked that was really different from what you would normally hear in the States?
You kind of cut out a little bit. Sorry.
You're good. I was asking, so with your travels doing house shows and going to Japan and Germany, was there any place that had a really unique dish that you thought you weren't going to like, but you ended up enjoying?
A unique dish?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Nice question. I mean, I'm a big fan of fish, but I'm always wary looking at my fish. So I think a lot of like I fell in love with like the like the trout that you could look at and then tear apart. It's kind of like a smoked trout.
Yeah.
And they have that a lot in Scandinavian countries. So like they would like for breakfast, you just go down for breakfast and they'd have, just fish looking at you, and you just peel back the scales and rip out a big ass piece of fish, and there's your breakfast. So that was always something I always looked forward to, that and lox and all sorts of stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So
I'll
my
try it for sure.
I don't know if it's true or not because you take everything you see online with a grain of salt. But do you plan on pursuing an acting career?
100%. I'm doing it right now.
Awesome.
I mean, I look at it this way. For years, I wrestled as like I want to make it as a wrestler. And what's the quota of making it as a wrestler? What does everybody want? They want to make it to the top company. They want to make it, on the top shows. And I pretty much did that consistently for almost 9-10 years. So like, to me, that's cool. But like now I have this other goal, and it's acting, and it's either of them are easy journeys. You know what I'm saying? And any kind of win you get is awesome. So like, to me, anytime I audition and I get the part and I go on set, that's me winning and getting experience. So like, I just filmed a small indie film the last couple days, and just being on set for 2 days, that creativity I got to do on set and collaborations I got to do with the director, or learning a little bit more about and how to do the stunt coordination side of it too. Like, that's stuff like when you're on the main roster, that's those learning experiences that are going to make you better for the next thing.
I watched this one,
like a stepping stone kind of thing.
I watched this one comment of our live viewers. Would you want to be in a Thor movie?
Who would say no to make some good money with Marvel? What I would rather be in one of Egger's films. You saw him do Northman, you saw him do The Lighthouse. You saw
fantastic film. Yep.
Yeah. So like, I'm a big fan of movies that have depth in characters, because that's something for years I didn't get to show. And I want to show the layers, of these characters that are written wonderfully. And, working with, directors and how to bring that character to life. Like, that's the cool thing. Somebody writes something on a piece of paper and then there it is in front of you. Like, that's cool to see, how it all starts from. Like, I did a short film for a buddy of mine, very talented buddy, called Tito. Watch it on YouTube. But I got to read the script and then be there for the whole thing on how he created the whole thing from script to the whole world. And it's just amazing what people can create with their mind. And I think that's what I always loved about the movies. Whether it be a horror movie or a drama or a romantic comedy, like there's just so much that goes behind everything. And the actors are just a small piece of it.
True.
What's your favorite genre of movies?
I mean, I'm a horror fan. I mean, I always
Can't go wrong with that.
But I'm getting more into the beauty of the indie drama.
Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Finally,
my little girl's happy about that
one. So Erick, my question is you're from Minnesota. We might have a little beef. I'm originally from Chicago, so but
I don't have beef with anyone from Chicago. I mean, that's Wisconsin.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Wisconsin. Okay.
Okay, but my question is, from someone who's from Minnesota, I've been there quite a bit. I've been to Duluth. I've been to St. Paul, St. Cloud, like you mentioned. If people are visiting Minnesota, what are some good food places they should go? So we were talking about food earlier. I'm a foodie. You know, I think we're all foodies. So like as a hometown boy of home state boy of Minnesota, what's some places you would recommend to people?
Man, this is terrible because I've been eating in so much lately.
DoorDash is a miracle.
I went to Mallard's. It's a nice they got like fish dishes and like just home cooked meals and cocktails. There's difference between like getting good food and then getting like food and games and fun. Like we have pinball spots. We got arcades. We got all the beaches and bar. I'm a bar hopper. I love bars. I built one in my house. Even if I'm not drinking down there, I'm still spending time down there. So I don't know as far as like the foodie thing. Like save your money, kids.
I agree.
Getting great life advice with Eric.
I will say if you haven't been to Duluth in a while, I haven't been, but the one place I enjoyed there was called Tavern on the Hill. Had some really good burgers.
All right, I thought you were gonna say Grandma B's or something. The Grandma's Marathon originates at this Grandma B's restaurant, so that everybody when they go to Duluth. Yeah.
I do want to share this one comment. Eric, would you wish my mom a happy birthday? Her name is Brenda.
How old is she?
She's actually my grandmother. Well, this is my uncle. She's going to be, I believe 70. 70, should be 70.
And her name is Brenda.
Yep.
All right. Happy 70th birthday, Brenda. And I'm sorry that you have a disappointment as a grandchild.
Oh my God.
Got him.
Because you never, ever say a woman's age on the air.
Oh.
Sir.
And that's why Connor is single.
Oh.
You're going to regret that. Playing.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to be kicked off once. I'll be. Eric, so take me back. How was filming the Wyatt compound match? Like what was going through your mind when they approached you with the idea and then executing it? Like, did things go as planned? Was it just kind of free off the cuff, or like, did you guys have set spots that you guys were wanting to do?
That was a nightmare shoot. We filmed so much more than that. It was Florida, humid, bugs. We filmed so much. We were there for 2 days. Like, they only used a small fraction, edited weirdly. There was just so much, like, it just, I didn't like the way it came off at all. And only thing I remember from that day was Braun being like, I can go through this windshield, and us all looking at each other like, well, people at home aren't going to know it's real. They're just going to think it's a fake windshield. So he's like, well, I'm sure I can break it. And I was like, well, yeah. I was like, yeah, you're going to break it, but you're going to get cut up. I was like, do you want to be all cut up in the swamp?
Ooh.
So yeah, he went through it, and he bled profusely.
That just sounds like a staph infection.
And then I'm like, was that worth it? Because we could have just got a fake windshield.
For real.
The Wyatt.
It's not hard.
The Wyatt compound match, was that the match that took place during the pandemic, or am I thinking of something else?
That was before.
That's the one I said. That's the one I said no to.
Oh,
They called me for that. I think I had 3 days left in my contract up to 90 days after it let me go, and I think I was already 3 weeks into filming Ghosts of the Ozarks out in Arkansas. And they called me. They're like, "Hey, we want to use you." I'm like, "Yeah, I can come on Sunday when I wrap this movie, but I'm not leaving them after 3.5 weeks to come help you."
Wow.
That's understandable. I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
And then I watched it, and I wasn't a fan of that one either.
Did you like any of during that weird time of the pandemic? Did you like any of the cinematic matches that they were shown, or do you think it kind of took away from the heart and soul of what professional wrestling is?
The only thing I liked during the pandemic era wrestling was the passionate promos from Edge, the promos from Drew. Just it elevated them and made them not do wrestly promos. And Edge was always good with that, but like, you know, especially Drew, it's like he connected more with people because people looked at his eyes, they looked at his emotion. Nobody was saying boo, boo, boo. I mean, I saw a viral clip of poor Finn trying to cut a passion promo with the crowd just singing songs.
Yeah,
that
was pretty funny.
And you know, what sucks is like if you're, you know, an actor in the theater and you got somebody, you know, screaming in front of you, there's a reason they have rules, because like their performance is going to be thrown off. And if he's trying to cut this passion promo, yeah, he's like, how is he going to shut up the crowd? Like, how are you going to take him seriously? I mean, you know, if you get flustered, you're like, I'm serious. I want to say something serious. Well, I don't believe it because we're singing a song here. So like during the pandemic, there was none of that, and you got to listen, and you got hooked on these promos.
That's a good point.
That's why I'm a fan. That's why I'm a fan of longer backstage things as well. But you know, obviously, within the live crowd, you want to keep them happy too.
Yeah. I feel like you kind of have to meet that median in a way, because especially when you see like the backstage area and see the different, you know, emotion and stories being told, you know, especially going back and looking at how Mick Foley, you know, was in boiler rooms and seeing how those played out. Like, I feel like that's something that's kind of a missed art nowadays, is just the backstage experience.
I mean, truth be told, I don't know how the crowd could be happy at a WWE show, because I've been to 2 Raws and they play endless commercials. They ain't keeping me happy.
Nothing worse than getting an entrance and then standing out there for the commercial break of 3 minutes.
It's so awkward, like being there and seeing it. Like,
all right, your entrance is up. Well, what am I going to do out there for 3 minutes? I don't know. Just stand around.
Just flex your muscles. There you
go. That was from the one. Would you like to be in a John Wick movie?
Yeah, I'll be the guy that gets killed by John. Number 7,221.
That's a good.
I mean, as long as I get this cool fight scene like Common did, I think I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty good scene.
So everybody listening now, make sure you tweet for, you know, the next John Wick movie. Make sure that, you know, Eric plays, you know, Thug number 1, and make sure he has this long, great fight scene.
Oh no, I need a name. I can't do Thug number 1 no more. You gotta have an actual name.
Okay. We'll find a name for you.
Yeah, we'll find a name. So, Eric, you mentioned horror. Horror is one of your favorite. It's one of my favorites. I worked in the haunted house industry for about 10 years, so horror's been like with me from my childhood. What was the very first horror movie you ever watched growing up?
The one that sticks out, and I don't know why it always comes back to me, is House.
Oh, such a good movie.
Yeah.
I remember being a little kid, and my parents had one of those little tents in the living room, and whenever a scary part would come, I would just go hide in the tent. And so that was like one of the first, and then I remember whenever I would go to my uncle's who lived on like a farm, horse farm / whatever, cornfield. I remember he made me watch Children of the Corn. And in the middle of the night, they came, him and his wife came, and they basically picked me up out of bed. I'm like, I think 6-7 years old. They picked me up and then they tied me to a stump in the cornfield.
What?
Seriously?
And then like I'm screaming and they're like, Malachi.
What the hell?
So that always stuck. That always stuck out to me. And then I remember I just started loving horror movies. I tricked my younger sister into watching one of the Friday the 13th movies, and I said, "Hey, we're watching London," and it was just because kids were going to camp and they were riding, and I'm like, "They're going to London." And then once the first guy got killed, my mom comes out screaming, "You can't have your little sister watch this stuff." You like that story?
Yeah, I do actually.
Yeah,
I'm glad she agrees.
I honestly think, Eric, if they redid House, you would be a good Big Ben.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you would play a great Big Ben.
I could see it. I'd rather be in a remake of the Father's Day skit and just the old dead guys that in a suit saying Father's Day. I want my cake.
Yeah. I finally got my cake.
I want to stress one
Happy
comment.
birthday.
As we were talking about earlier, my grandmother's on here. Eric, I wanted to thank you for my birthday wish. I absolutely don't mind anyone knowing my age. I'm very blessed to be my age, and I am Avid or something.
Well, Brenda, thank you, and I'm sure that you forgot to, do the CK at the end, but I don't blame you. I blame your grandson.
We got beef with Connor and Eric.
Oh snap!
Only with Connor from the Ascension.
Oh, there we go.
Oh man, I feel bad.
There we go. Bang bang.
No. Ryan Connor is probably a good friend of mine. I just like to rib him.
So, with your love for horror movies, was there any idea from, like, say, any of your favorites that you want to incorporate with the Wyatt family, or as the Bludgeon Brothers, or just by yourself? Was there any like kind of character idea, or almost a scene that you wanted to kind of make your own and bring it to the WWE?
Yeah. I mean, first off, look what I wore. I wore coveralls, like all Slipknot and all Halloween.
Yeah,
Michael Myers.
Good point. That's a good point.
So I was a big fan of Texas Chainsaw 2 and the camaraderie between Chop Top and Leatherface, and I always assumed on TV I was the Leatherface character who wanted to be nice and just wanted to be loved, and Brody was Chop Top, the loud, arrogant guy with a plan.
I like that.
Where the plan doesn't always necessarily work out, which is why it was always my idea for him to slap me around, like get me upset, like stop taking.
That's good.
So we would do stuff like that, and I'm like, well, we're kidnapping guys like Miz, we're kidnapping King, but they're not showing what we're doing. What great character development with me, like trying to be the good guy, even though like in a second I'll like smash your brain in, but while I'm being nice, like then you got John in the background, like being the mean one, and that's like the perfect story and the way to show the characters and how they can be lovable, yet be these crazy heels.
I agree.
I love a good lovable heel.
What was going on? Somebody just broke in his house.
But they never wanted to show
all
it.
Brody needed was the hanger. That's all Brody needed was the hanger.
Yeah, but,
right.
They didn't want him to talk because he couldn't do a southern accent.
Still baffles me. Oh man. Just
so you so where did you train to wrestle at? I'll ask a lot of wrestlers on here that we have. So where did you train to become a wrestler? Well, I know Adam said who you were trained by, but
where did I train? In Minnesota. Yeah. In Minnesota. So he was out of I think I can't. I don't know if it was just a suburb of Minneapolis. But yeah, that was with Eddie Sharkey. And then, your training never stops. So like I did that in 2002. And then fast forward to 07, I went to Pro Wrestling Noah, and I trained in the dojo while doing a couple tours with them. And then I basically, when I came back from there, I had a 1-year-old at the time, and I was a single dad. So I wasn't in the opportunities to be like the traveling indie guy. I couldn't go to the ROHs. I couldn't go, out of the Midwest. And the minute you do that, you stop getting better. You just kind of stay the same. You get stuck in a hole. You think, it's like that's that big fish in a little pond syndrome, where you're just stuck and you're not improving. And anybody that work everywhere you can, as many different people as you can, as many different crowds, in front of as many different people, different kinds of crowds as you can, because that's what's going to make you improve. So, yeah. So luckily, a few years after I was in Japan, I was able to get signed with WWE. And then that was another. Then you're training with developmental. You train with Norman Smiley. You train with Ricky Steamboat, Tom Pritchard. I think I said Terry Taylor. I don't know. Like, I'm just saying, you have all these other guys. Then you get on the main roster. Then you're on the job training, and you're training with, all the legends you watched as a kid. You're training with all the up and comers. You're having producers like Fit Finley, and being able to learn from those guys. And you never stop learning. I mean, then fast forward, you do the indies now, and it's like, if you work somebody that's not as good as you, then you got to think on the fly. You got to think how to make this match as good as possible, given the talent you have in the match. And so, like, to me, you're always learning. You're never not. No matter what kind of entertainment business you're doing, you're always learning something new, whether it's wrestling, acting. I mean, if you're not learning something every day, then you might as well just have a zombie job, because you're going to be happy with that. If you think you know it all, then just stop what you're doing.
What was the
That's deep and real.
What was the biggest piece of advice that you got from Ricky Steamboat?
It's funny you say Ricky Steamboat. So it's that getting that fire, that real fire underneath you, not being timid. So, like, if somebody gets in your face and they're pushing you, are you just going to push them and be like, get off of me? Or are you going to push them and, it's like, get the F off of me? Like you want people to believe it. So I remember he was doing stuff, and we were in this, in FCW. It was like there was like 2 or 3 rings in this like little warehouse. And so we had all these different classes going on, and I'm in a ring with Ricky, and he was pushing me and trying to get me to like be verbal. And I remember I almost pushed him on his ass and just started screaming at him and cutting a promo, like, because he wanted that out of me. And everyone like stopped and that was doing whatever class they were doing, and they were ready to like stop me from hurting Ricky.
Wow.
Because and not because I was going to do anything, but because I had that fire that he was trying to teach to come out of me, to show like, hey, I can come out of that shell and be vocal and make it look realistic that I want to kill this guy. So like that was a lesson I learned from him.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like that, you basically it clicked. That's crazy. That one moment, that's all it took to click, and then everybody stops and just, wow, that is incredible. You were that believable. That is amazing.
I don't want to take out too much of your time since it's a very late interview, but does anyone else got any other questions?
Oh, I have one more. Can you tell us about any pranks?
Pranks?
Of any kind.
So I never had time for pranks. I mean, I'm a dad. I don't got time for shenanigans.
Gotcha.
I mean, I never got screwed with. I never had people like rib me like that. Not that I can think of that left a lasting impression on me. I don't know why. Like I remember being in the dojos and they'd rip the hell out of some of these young boys, and I was like, how come they're not doing this to me? Like I want to get ribbed, but no, I didn't. I didn't want my clothes stripped off and thrown down the chute of the second story building, and then make the poor young boy have to run downstairs naked. No, I didn't want that.
That's oddly descriptive.
Yeah,
I do remember.
I remember watching that and being like, yeah, I'm glad I don't have to do that.
I do remember one time WWE had a show called Swerved, and you were on there, and this woman, and she came up to you.
All right, so they tried to pull something on me for real. Like besides that, they now I remember. Thank you for reminding me because I was pissed. So like for years I had tried a Viking gimmick, which I was told would never work in WWE, and this was like before Vikings was even like a huge thing. And now there's obviously the Viking Raiders, but whatever. So like this is a few years after we were already debuted with the Wyatt family, and I was told by one of the TR guys, "Hey, you need to go into this room. Like they want you to cut some promos in wrestling gear, or as a Viking, because they're thinking about switching your gimmick." And I was like, I looked at the stuff, and it was like these fake horns and like just fake fur, and I turned and looked at Corrado, and I was like, well, this is bullshit. I was like, I tried this gimmick for years. I was like, if you want to look at old tapes from FCW where I was cutting all these promos in front of Dusty, I was like, you're more welcome to go look at it. But if you want me to wear this ridiculous costume and try to pitch something that I pitched for you guys for 4 years, you're out of your goddamn mind, and I'll go to Vince right now. And I just walk out the door and start walking towards Vince, and he had to like run after me and stop me. No, it was a joke. It was a joke.
It's a prank, bro.
Wow.
I was like, you can't joke around with guys that are away from their families, and like, we just don't got time for that. Like, we're already gone enough, like, and we got to deal with enough crap that's personal to us. Like I didn't like that show at all, because it was like, you do understand that our life is on the road, and like we're making sacrifices to be away. Like we didn't want to be ribbed. It was the stupidest thing. I think I saw one where they like didn't let one of the guys into the building, and I was like, that's ridiculous. I would have been so pissed off.
I believe Ric Flair was one of them. And he got mad and he walked all the way down the street, and then he
thanks for reminding me of that. That's
I apologize. I do apologize.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead, Adam. I
was just going to ask. My final question was, I marked out hard when you showed up with the Lucha Brothers in AEW. When will we see Erick Redbeard back in AEW? Because I'd love to see you back on TV, man.
Real talk.
When there's a need for big men to actually have programs.
Yeah.
And or if there's a need for Wardlow to get his ass kicked by somebody bigger than him.
Yes, please.
The follow-up with that question.
Please get an Erick Redbeard Wardlow match. Oh my God, I would love that.
His ass kicked.
So follow up with that question.
I can do a whisper in the wind. Come on now.
Oh,
he's big. He'll catch me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. To follow up with that question,
meaning he'll fall over.
Yeah.
But
the few times you appeared in AEW, was there ever interest in having you in full time, or has it just always been like this is always like a one-off thing or something?
It's always been one-offs, and seeing how some of the bigger guys are used, like, or the lack of like big guys, it doesn't make me hopeful for where my place would be in that company if I was to be there. And that's all you look for when you look for wrestling, is like, where do you fit in? Where would you fit in? And like right at this moment, I don't see where I would fit in, unless I had a feud with somebody. But like that once that feud's over, most feuds now are so weird. Like they last like 2 weeks. Feuds should last a month. I love that about wrestling back in the day because like you'd look forward to these monthly pay-per-views, and that's what I would get together with my buddies in college, and we'd get a cheap meal and sit down, and we'd put like $5 in a piece, and we'd watch this pay-per-view. And every match in the pay-per-view had these stories that were built up, and that's what I look forward to. Like, oh shit, so this match is happening because this guy did this and that. Yeah, I've been watching every week. Like, I know what's going to happen. Like, they're going to have this epic fight now. Like, no matter what match it was, like there was stories, and like I feel like maybe three or four matches have like a kind of a story, and the rest don't. And I don't know what the reasoning for that is. And it just makes me not want to watch wrestling.
Yeah, definitely.
That's just me as a fan.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, to add to your point with the big man, I mean, Wardlow is amazing, and I feel like they dropped the ball on Wardlow like plenty of times, but he's great. I think they could do way more.
I enjoy him. I enjoy Lance Archer. I've always been a fan of Miro. There's that Hobbs kid. Like I've seen a little bit from him, but like he doesn't. They aren't on TV enough.
Yeah.
I agree. Morrissey's always in a group. He's not like the Impact Morrissey. It's a different character altogether. He's not having these long matches, and then like I watch some things some people do, and it's like the major problem with big guys in wrestling. I'll just say this as like my kind of like huff puff is that when you watch MMA, you have heavyweights, and then you have light heavyweights, and you have all this. So if the heavyweights take a loss, hey, they're taking it to another heavyweight.
Right.
In wrestling, you don't have that. So like if you're constantly losing to a guy that's half your size, and this isn't a knock on anybody in sizes and all that shit, but perception's the reality of what people see. And if I'm constantly losing to like a Rey Mysterio, I'm not just saying that because I don't want to call out anybody, and Rey Mysterio is just known for being one of the greatest small men in history. But if I'm constantly losing to Rey Mysterio every week, just getting beat and beat and beat, and it looking like a squash match, where's my credibility?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have any at that point, because it almost reminds me of that meme that you see with Ray and the Great Khali, and it was a Khali, Big Show, and Mark Henry versus, or that meme, that clip. It just kind of like once something that kind of hit, I feel like a lot of credibility for big man kind of shifted a little bit to where it wasn't as believable.
And we have a difference of like the big guy in that show. There's a lot of guys that are like less than half their size, and instead of just cycling, I feel like they cycle the big guys in to be like the one that like the smaller guys got to beat as like an obstacle, but then they disappear because after they beat them, we don't need you, or we need you to reset you. And I hope that changes. I hope they do something about that. I hope some of those guys get storylines at the top. I hope they get like month-long storylines where like whoever the champion is, whether it be MJF or Adam Cole, like, oh, he's got to go through, like they did it with Lance a couple times where he had to be the guy that fought Paige. They had some great matches, but like, let him run with the ball. Let him beat him. Let him be champion. Let people it's not going to hurt the credibility of the smaller guy.
No.
To
not at all.
Have to overcome this guy. So there you go. It's like 2 or 3 months where this guy's on top to establish credibility. So when he finally loses, it means more.
Especially with like a guy like Archer, because I loved when he because I loved when he would just throw Marco Stunt around like he was nothing. That was always my favorite parts, during his time, at least during the pandemic portion of his run. So I'd love to see that come back where you muddle through a few people, beat a few normal sized guys, and then have that big that big monster of a champion. That's why I love to see Hobbs or Wardlow be on top of that card, because I bet one of those two monsters, or even Archer, one of my favorite Texans. I think he would be a great world champion for AEW, or even hold the TNT belt.
Yeah, and like on the flip side, even like Omos, I feel like he's
Almost
lost.
yes.
I feel like he's losing his credibility, and like, not that he ever had it, because he never beat anybody, and he's going, and but the worst thing is he's the heel too.
Yeah,
so he's the big guy that can cheat. He has like a mouthpiece out there to help him win, and to me, just optically, it just sucks. Like, and I'm a fan. I want these guys to do good, because the better everybody does, the more eyes are going to want to be on the product.
Yeah, I feel like I 100% agree with you. I think that was what Impact was doing right for a couple of years, and they had Moose and then W. Morrissey. Like, when Big Bill had his run. Like, I remember watching him here in Dallas or Hard to Kill, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like he is what I wanted him to be in WWE. It's just crazy to see. Almost every company right now is having a hard time with their big man. I feel like they're not booking them as consistent.
Yeah, well, then that's been a problem for a while, for a while,
decades.
And I agree with you on that one, Lane, too, with Impact back in TNA when they had Abyss. Abyss was one of the best big men in TNA. He was one of my favorite wrestlers in that promotion, and they just dropped the ball with him like later on, and I don't know what happened.
Yeah. They fumbled the whole thing.
The only company that seems to be using a big man as their champion is the NWA, and he doesn't seem to have a whole lot of challengers.
No,
which is interesting.
Could we see Erick Redbeard versus Atiris?
Yes.
I don't think anybody's itching to pay top dollar for that one.
Hey, I'd pay for that.
You don't know that, bro.
I don't know. My whole gimmick's about the music, man, and the NWA don't have no entrance music. I don't like that.
That's true.
Yeah,
they're still studio wrestling.
I don't like that. How can I be a fan of heavy metal, want to promote heavy metal, and not be able to come out to a metal song? I mean, I had a Monomarth get in the ring for me. That's my song.
Yeah.
I guess I'll ask one last question to end the stream. You talked about MJF later in this interview. Do you feel like MJF is the last true heel in wrestling?
Absolutely not. I mean, I think he's one of the biggest dickheads. Can I say that?
Of course.
Actors talk about method actors, and I'm like, man, this MJF's totally method. I'm sick of it. Like, get over yourself, man. Be that character, but behind closed doors, like, man, just calm down. Like, this isn't your life.
You see, they believe his own bullshit.
We know it's fake, and if fans enjoy this legitimately, like this 24/7 charade of heelness, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember when I was in the Wyatts, I dressed the gimmick and I flew, with it. But like, at the end of the day, I had a passport. How'd I get on the plane? I got a driver's license. I didn't give that up. Like, people know. Like, I tried not to tweet, because like, why would we have Twitter? But like, this day and age, we're here. But also in this day and age, you can't get away with saying certain things. You can't get away with doing certain things. And there's this line, and I know he likes to cross the line and be edgy, and I love his work in the ring. I love his heel work when it comes to in the context of a match, if that makes sense. Like, I think he's great.
I get it.
Do I think he's method, and do I just not like the method style in wrestling? Yeah, I don't like that. It's 2023. It's a completely different guard. It's I don't know. To me, it just sprinkles with all sorts of things, and I don't want to get into it with you guys, but like, I like it and I like it and I don't. How's that?
Yeah, that makes sense. Fair enough.
That's 100% fair.
Yeah,
you don't think you can carry the cult gimmick on Twitter? like the Wyatt family. Like, hey guys, we're in a swamp right now, just doing cult stuff. You don't think you can do that on Twitter?
I mean, isn't TikTok just one big cult? I mean, don't you guys hear about this English kid that just goes and terrorizes people, and then like he never gets arrested? Hey, I just robbed these folks.
That is robbed these folks.
But it was on TikTok, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Like this is a real kid, and I'm like, well, there's a gimmick. He just goes and he's just an asshole to everybody. Breaks the law, like commandeers trains, but it's for TikTok.
Yeah. It's for the views. So
For
the
the
kids
clout.
say for the views.
For the clout.
So as long as people buy in his t-shirts, he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met MJF one time, and probably worse than he is on TV, honestly. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on, Eric. We had a tag team coming on. They canceled like 5 minutes before
Who was
the
it?
interview. I don't know if you may or may not know them, but they're called the Outrunners.
The Outrunners.
The
I heard of those guys. They were like the American Gladiators kids.
Really?
Okay.
Really?
No, I don't know them
Jump
at all.
in.
But when I looked at them,
Yeah, you had him. Mister doesn't pull any ribs.
it would have been great. It would have been greater if I could actually think of two American Gladiators. Like that was Blaze and Thunder's kids.
Yes, please.
Blaze and Thunder.
Yeah, Blaze and kids.
Turbo.
Turbo.
Yeah,
But you guys can totally see it now, so it works great.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully they follow through with their commitments in the future.
yeah, it was a
Good start for the business, boys.
yeah. They're a tag team OVW, and I don't want to go into what happened.
No,
You're good, you're good.
I'm sure they're good guys.
You're gonna keep it decent.
They have a little buzz, so I know who they are. So yeah, they seem like they got their heads on straight and know what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate it was very last minute, and I'm just thank you for doing this very last minute.
Much appreciation.
So,
Yes, thank you, Eric.
No,
was a pleasure.
thanks for the different questions that I normally get. That's probably why I stayed on so long with you guys. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you. And man,
Hey, if I'm ever in Minnesota, I'll buy you a beer. How about that?
No, you're from
Oh.
Chicago.
Oh, that's right.
Fun fact.
Boom, boom, bang.
I don't
Fun
live
fact.
anymore, though. I'm down south now.
Have
Eric
fun at
Rowan-
Riot Fest.
Eric Rowan is the
Don't
first
go there
professional
anymore.
wrestler I've ever talked to, so that's pretty cool. For me.
really?
Yeah, first professional wrestler I ever talked to. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool experience.